Hello there, and welcome to Thank the Maker, a podcast about heroes, princesses, scoundrels, hokey religions, ancient weapons, and all things Star Wars. I'm Adam Russell.
I am Mike Forrester, and I want to scream like Rampart in that high-pitched from how good this episode was. And also with a little bit of sadness, the fact that we're going to get a finale next week.
Oh, dude, it is. I'm not ready for it. We're not... There's too much. There's too much left, and we're going to talk about that later. But God, dude, it's really here, but it doesn't feel like it should be yet.
Kind of snuck up on us. What else is up, Adam? Anything cool? Anything cool happening? We hit the music again. That's it. The show is over, everyone. Thank you so much for watching.
That was
very
cool.
Excited about this.
Hey, it was such a cool thing that I was about to say that it needed a reintro. So that reintro goes out to S13 Danny. Thanks for the super chat and YouTube. By the way, those are back. We haven't mentioned that they've been back for a few weeks. It was the whole Google AdSense, give us everything about you, including a stool sample, and then we'll eventually pay you kind of thing.
Right. I was supposed to send you mine, right? You got mine?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in the Ziploc freezer bag, like not just a standard one. Yeah.
Oh, I was supposed to freeze it before?
No, just the double zip. That's all.
Okay. All right, good. Whew. Okay, good.
Yeah.
We let's see. Super chats are back. Patreon. We've got
Patreon. Always here.
Always here, which is nice. We have and a couple of really fun announcements happening. And
big things coming up.
I think what else is interesting too is that next week is going to be tough for me because I might be with our good friend Justin Sonfield of the 501st Legion, because I'm going to New York with our friends at Roosevelt's and our co-pod Drins, Princess and Scoundrel, and Dano. I think it's going to be a good time. So I might chime in with Justin. We should have Justin on. Let's just have Justin. Let's have a big old mosh pit.
Hey, I think that's a great idea, because I don't know if I told you this or not. I feel like I did, but maybe we haven't touched base recently.
Yeah.
I cannot fully be on next week. I will be on a plane. No, I won't be on a plane. I will be on the festival grounds.
Oh.
Wait a minute. No, I will be on a plane. I'm getting dates mixed up. I will be on a plane on my way to Vegas to go see a festival with my wife, because it is our 10th anniversary.
Oh, that's so fun.
So
what will you guys be, what kind of festival will you be attending?
It's the same promoters, same group that did When We Were Young. It's the Lovers and Friends Festival, the big hip-hop and R&B thing, with, like, everyone. Like,
who in particular
Lil Wayne,
are
Snoop
you?
Dogg, TLC.
Who are you most excited to see?
I mean, Lil Wayne's doing the Carter 3 front to back, so
Honestly,
that's
fire
way up at the top.
Okay.
T.I. is going to be there.
Okay.
He's not a great dude, but I do love his music.
Sure.
Snoop, I've seen Snoop a handful of times. He'll be great to see. Genuine's playing, so make sure to be there to see Pony, and then bail to whatever else.
Right. The classics.
Rick Ross.
Okay.
Lupe Fiasco.
Kick
like
Bush.
I said, TLC. Like a bunch of great, like, 90s, early 2000s, just like everything.
Sure.
It's sick.
Sure. Well, that sounds fun. So if you're also attending that, make sure you find the bass player of Story of the Year and tell him how much you like 90s hip hop.
Yeah. Tell me
about
about
you
it.
guys connect over that. I love that.
Also, we'll be there for Cinco the next day. So,
Okay.
We're going to eat tacos and drink margaritas until we black out, and then have to get on a plane the next day.
It sounds like a white person's Cinco de Mayo for sure.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, I can't wait to get into Bad Batch.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about it. It was a great episode, penultimate episode of the entire series, and it was, like we said before, like, it doesn't feel like it's time yet for it to end, because it was this great action-packed episode that's just, like, barely inching us forward.
Right.
It seems like a direct continuation of last week. Same writer. I would assume these last three are all kind of just one continuous story, the way they're just kind of stopping right in the middle of the action.
Sure.
I mean, Last week and this week could easily have bone 40-minute episode.
So this is kind of like this an interesting thought that I've been stewing on, right? Because of course I have, we get leaks and information of someone who is doing the European translation for an episode that says like, I think this might be a long episode, right? So you hear of these rumblings, which don't end up being true. But what's interesting about it is I wonder if Disney almost has to do like an audit on who they're sending the screeners out to, because I feel like when people get this information, they almost like can't be trusted to not blow something out as hyperbole, right? Like, and why studios do it. They do pre-releases of movies and they're like, let's let, the super fans go to it, because then the super fans go online and they're like, it's the greatest thing I've ever seen. You're like, you know what? It was good. The one screen, I remember we shared this. It was like this one screener was like, it's the most emotional, heavy. And I'm kind of
Brutal,
sitting here on this side going, you put, in my opinion, like an incorrect thought in everyone's head of how this season has gone so far. And I think the pacing of this season maybe could have benefited from combining some of these episodes to give us so that the lead into Tantus is a little less Dragon Ball Z in terms of you're watching people charge up for 4 episodes until they finally fight. I think there's been some incredible character development moments. I think in my side of things, I'm looking at it kind of going, I don't see how it cannot be a long, probably an hour-long season finale at this point, with all of the things that have to get wrapped up. And I'm really starting to feel like now that Bad Batch almost kind of hit. Do you remember when Bad Batch hit after Clone Wars? It almost just kind of took you into this transition. Like, we know you're sad, we know you're crying, but Bad Batch is coming. I'm feeling less like Bad Batch is going to be this final arc.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's setting us up for, I know we're getting Tales of the Empire. I know we're getting that, but I feel like they're loading the cannon for the next episodic anime. Are you feeling like that too? Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because there's just too much to wrap up. We keep saying this every single week. There's too much left. The patrons are talking about it in Discord right now. There's too much. So I get the feeling like they want to segment it in the way that you segment, like, dare I say, Avengers films,
Right.
Marvel Cinematic Universe films, where, you have to bring one arc to a close.
Right.
Or, an arc, several people's arcs in sort of like a crew.
Right.
But the story's going to keep going because there's all this space to fill. Pardon the pun. So, I don't know.
There's something interesting about this, at least the way that I see it, is we were introduced to a young Harrison Dula. I met Vanessa Marshall this weekend, the voice of Harrison Dula. She's very sweet. She's wonderful. She said she wants to come on the podcast. I was like, I know a guy. But we saw a young Harrison Dula on Ryloth in Bad Batch. I have to bring back Ventress.
Yes.
And just kind of leave that as like hey, that was kind of weird, right? I'm trying not to look into it too much, but they bring back Ventress. They are certainly, Senator Chuchi, like, there's so much going on that I feel like the writers are too smart to just leave all these loose ends, right? Like, there has to be, is this a reintroduction to Kanan Jarrus? Is this following possibly Harrison Dula and seeing how Ryloth is changing at this point too? Where is Saw Gerrera at this point? I think there's so much like pre-Rebels. There's a time frame that I feel like is just pushing us there. It's just getting us there,
and it's so compelling too. Like, the birth of a rebellion is such a compelling story to tell, and I know we all want it, even though it is, like, the biggest haters will say, like, give us something other than the Skywalker saga. give us a totally different time period. We're going to get it. But the birth of the rebellion all around this massive galaxy, this massive universe, is extremely compelling, even though we know the ultimate outcome. Because as all these animated shows have shown us, the galaxy is so much bigger. And although it still comes back to Palpatine and Darth Vader in the center of this story, there's so much more depth. There's so many more layers to peel back.
Right.
So give it to me.
And I'm looking like Stacy Leanne in the chat is like Rex, Hauser, Wolf, Cody. Like we were kind of thinking it was going to be this clone uprising.
Yeah.
And I think for the Bad Batch and their focus of the story may have possibly been a little less integral than we thought, right?
Right.
That you have Rex connecting with all these other clones. We know that there's clones in Tantus. If they're released, there is still a lot of story to tell. So I'm feeling a little less worried that we're not going to get a fulfilling end to the Bad Batch, because I'm now starting to think like when we started this episode, or I'm sorry, when we started this season, all of us were like, oh, they're going to get killed off. Every 3 episodes, another Bad Batch member is going to die, right? And now I'm sitting here being like, I'm kind of in the camp that Crosshair is probably going to get it, just because this has been his focus. But I'm like Hunter, Wrecker, like Omega, like I can't. I'm actually kind of on the train that like they're taking us to the next season.
Yeah,
it's just going to be named something different, right?
Yeah, I think one thing that is like a very simple but massive factor and explanation to kind of work in there is that Omega is not only the oldest, it's like she's their older sister, but also their younger sister because of the advanced aging stuff with the cloning.
Right.
So she will outlive them. So to hand the baton to her in switching places sort of in the hierarchy,
right,
allows you to continue it with a few of the. It's almost like the sequel trilogy. Yes,
right.
the original heroes were in it, but that's about handing the baton.
Right.
And I feel like there's an opportunity to do that, and I hope that's what we're getting next.
I mean,
but this episode, I mean, have you had the feeling the past few episodes that it's been like this? It's felt like A New Hope in a way, like A New Hope with really moody, emotional undertones in terms of like the action being really high level, like cinematic action.
Yeah.
But with the emotional component that's not just swashbuckling.
Yeah, it's got the camp of Star Wars, the original trilogy camp, right? It's got kind of the, there's a beast, we got our like underlying beast, right? We always have the like, oh, there's another beast we have to defeat. It's a Wampa this time. It's a Sarlacc this time. It's it's the Tusken Raiders this time. Like all and I just think that this show is so smart in establishing where this is heading back to Star Wars. Like you can see that the people who are making this are such fans, and I love that. I love that. And I think this was a strong episode comparatively to last week's. I mean, I'm with you that they easily could have combined these into 2, but there's a lot of really strong moments in this episode that after it was over, I remember thinking, now that's one that I would rewatch. Like last week's was a good episode, but I didn't have this like compelling drive to rewatch it. This one I was like, Flash Strike. I like this one.
Yeah, it was great. And obviously all the dogfight stuff, like that just hooked me instantly. Like there were like these Jurassic Park kind of vibes.
Sure.
All these, so many callbacks that are little, but they're all adding up to the rest of the seasons. A lot of old stuff. We'll talk about the Zilla Beast later. Right. It was just really good.
Was it refreshing for you to see like that Hemlock wasn't your like blubbering Imperial officer that like looks around and is like, rebels? I don't see any rebels, and all of a sudden they fly by. It's like he straight. They were like, there's a security breach. He was straight up like, lock the base down, send the fighters. Right? I was like, that's that's what he does, baby. Like, he's good, you know. And
he's like a young Tarkin meets Thrawn kind of thing,
right.
You know.
Yeah, so I appreciated that, and it'll be very interesting to see what they do, because like there's a part of me. I mean, I think naturally, we'll get into it. Let's talk. Let's get into it.
Yeah. Quick stolen plans.
What have you done with those plans?
Season 3, Episode 14, Flash Strike. Debuted today, April 24th, 2024 on Disney+. Disney Plus description, odds are against the batch as they operate behind enemy lines. 23-minute runtime, directed by Nate Villanueva, and written again by supervising director Brad Rao. It makes sense it was Brad Rao again. Have we figured out, has it been announced who wrote the finale? Is that up yet? Director or any of that
who
stuff?
wrote it? Who directed it?
Yeah.
I have no idea, but I bet you it's Filoni. Actually, it's probably Jennifer. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let me look and see.
It would make sense. I mean, you know, I'm sure Filoni has plenty of input. Like George had plenty of input when the Clone Wars was really popping off, but he wasn't sitting down at the table writing, sitting down on his computer or his yellow pad of paper. We'll see. Let's get right into like an overview here, because there's a lot, and we'll talk through it. I kind of broke it up into the 3 main plot lines, being the Bad Batch, Echo, and Omega, each doing their own thing. Like we said, this picks up directly where last week left off. They're in hyperspace. The stolen shuttle is attached to the bottom of the science vessel. They come out of hyperspace on their way to Tantus base. The Empire, like you said, is wise to the Bad Batch's plan, so they alert Tantus that they're coming. They deploy the fighters, crash landing in the jungle. They rappel down. There's a great reference here that we have in the den. Crosshair is not happy to be back. We talked about that last week. He's rubbing his hand. They're showing that again, the one with the tremor. There's a great moment with Rampart and Crosshair that I'm going to make an amazing meme out of. Rampart I forgot what he says to Crosshair. Do you remember something like, you used to be...
You're good. You used to be a soldier that followed orders, basically.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
You were a good soldier that followed orders, or whatever.
And Crosshair says back, the Empire betrayed both of us.
Mm-hmm.
And Rampart fires back, and basically Crosshair, for the first time ever, out of his own mouth says, "I've changed."
Right. Now, this also gives a little bit of rise to the theory that CX may very well be the original Crosshair.
Yeah.
And Crosshair is a clone of Crosshair.
Westworld style.
100%, right? Because like the way that it was said and the way that it was positioned was very like, knowing that theory is out there, and I actually kind of love that theory, because the Death Troopers were elite in so many ways that there was clearly some common genetic material that they grabbed them from.
Yeah.
I love that thing, and just the way in my head canon, I was like, ooh, did they tease us there? They put some crumb trails out. I'm not sure, but I did. I love the fact that Crosshair is like his own dude now. I think that's awesome.
I mean, the Westworld parallel. Westworld spoilers here. Season 2 or 3 spoilers. The idea of not just making like a robot, an android, but putting someone's consciousness in one for them to live forever is a central theme of the second and third series, or second and third seasons of Westworld. And the big problem is getting the consciousness to accept the body and vice versa.
Right.
And the body starts glitching. It eventually fails. That's the problem they're trying to get over. So seeing Crosshair with the tremor and everything, yeah,
Yeah.
it could really be a thing.
Right.
Shout out Physics Buddy Joe in the patron chat. The quote is specifically, Rampart says, "You're like me, loyal to no one but yourself." Crosshair says, "I've changed." And Rampart says, "Sure you have." pretty heavy.
Yeah.
But I mean, and that right there, I've changed also. Even if none of this cloning stuff is real,
Right.
that just tees him up for a big death.
Right.
You know, I've
Right.
just in time. I've changed just in time to be killed.
Right.
Or to
and
sacrifice myself.
And also too, like Rampart deep down knows that he didn't really do anything wrong that the Empire is looking on. Like the guy was, I mean, he's framed and is relieved of his duty, but it's like, considering what Hemlock's doing and considering what Tarkin has done,
Yeah.
I was like, he's in good company with these scumbags.
Yeah.
So he's probably like, if I can prove like Rampart is the kind of guy that'd be like, yo, I brought you the Bad Batch. Like, this is who Omega thinks is breaking them out. If you get rid of them, Omega, like, none of this matters anymore. Omega is yours. You never have to worry about anybody coming for her again. Rampart's the kind of guy that'd walk in there and be like, I did it. Like, take my badge off and give me the moth. Like, that's the kind of guy he is. So
you think there's no chance that Rampart might actually turn?
I think the turn for Crosshair is the arc that represents change. And I think Rampart doesn't have enough redeeming qualities yet for us to believe that he should be spared, considering what he represents to the Empire, opposite of Crosshair.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think there would be too many. It's, like Callus, like you felt like you got
was
this
like 4
episode,
seasons for that.
100%, right? Like you felt like you saw Callus actually break to be like, I realize this is ridiculous. We're both going to die here. What's the point, right? Like, why are we doing this with Zeb? Rampart's been an absolute dickhead the whole time, you know?
Irredeemable piece of shit.
No redeeming qualities, yeah.
Yeah. So they're moving towards Atlantis base on foot because, again, the shuttle crashed, they rappelled down, they run into a giant beast, as is tradition. We'll reference what that is later. And basically that run-in gets the pursuing troopers off their tail, off their trail. That works out. Back to Echo, so he arrives in the science vessel, they're attached, of course. He infiltrates the base disguised in stolen stormtrooper armor. Point for that, talk about that later. Steals a protocol droid's hand, fits it on his, whatever you call that.
His Phillips head?
Yeah, his prosthetic.
Or his
USB
flathead
drive arm.
screwdriver?
Yeah. That was awesome. I love that. He runs into Emery Carr in this amazing, amazing scene where it's just like written so well.
Yeah.
There's like a really good screenwriting, not trick, but like just a method where it makes things more interesting and you move the story along better if characters ask each other questions rather than just sitting and monologuing, you know?
Yeah.
So the way when she sees him, she says, Crosshair, that's your name, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And she puts it to him, puts the ball in his court. And the way that exchange happens is like, it's so, I have goosebumps. It's so good.
Yeah.
Because.
You're saying Echo.
Did I say Echo?
You said Crosshair.
Oh, sorry. Echo. My bad. It says Echo.
Get this guy. Who is this guy with
name,
the Star
right?
Wars podcast?
Idiot. So she recognizes him right away, and that implies that Omega has told her all this stuff.
Right.
And he kind of responds, and he's talking about, Omega saw something in you. I hope that's true. So the stuff that kind of happened off camera is bubbling up to the surface in this conversation. And
Echo represents this like horrific end result of just straight scientific experimentation.
Right.
So in a way, like when he like takes his helmet off and kind of reveals that he's, basically his body is literally bolted together, and what they did to him, it's kind of like a move that I think, when he's like, you're a clone too, and he's kind of like, look what they did to us, and here you are, like basically passing the baton of being, and then of course we get into the, I was just doing my job, and now we're here in the Nuremberg trials and like all this stuff.
Exactly,
like it's a very common, this is paying tribute to history, just like George always intended. And, you know,
Yep.
I think, yeah.
Emery ultimately agrees to help. And you can see it's just like a feather just has to tap the domino for her to do it. You know, she was in a position where she couldn't have possibly done anything on her own. It seems like there's a little bit of a combination of like just feeling like she has no choice with a little bit of Stockholm syndrome, having been a clone raised by these pieces of shit. She knows nothing else but this.
Yep.
She's powerless, but then now there's this opportunity, so she agrees to help. She says, you won't get anywhere without my assistance. If we're going to free those children, you're going to have to trust me.
Mm-hmm.
And Echo's like, those children? You know, he has no idea. So then, you know, another bombshell for him. And the stakes are even higher. Stakes that we've known about, but now the characters know about it.
Right. Well, this is, again, you know, you've got the I was just doing my job mentality, and then you also have what actually is going on here, right? Because we talked about this, you know, that people didn't, a lot of Germany did not know exactly what the Nazis were doing.
Mm-hmm.
It was the idea that, like, you're helping with the war effort, and then people had no idea that you know, they were like, oh, these are POW camps. And it's like they were left out of of a lot of information on purpose. So for Emery to know that it was happening, but Echo and, you know, I think they're still continually surprised at how terrible the Empire is. You know, and I it's super interesting.
I would love to see her kind of join the group or join the rebellion, go on with them, and be part of whatever this next series is going to be. And if it all converges with the path, and like you said, Caleb, you know, they didn't mention the path and write that into Obi-Wan just to throw something out there.
Right.
Whether or not it comes to fruition exactly how the folks involved in that show envisioned or not, who knows? Just like Lucas threw out the Clone Wars thing in 77 and had a very different idea of what it's going to be. Either way, it came together, and I feel like we're set up for the same thing, and we have all these players in place to just tell a lot of really compelling stories.
Right.
Omega's plot here, so she's planning to escape. She hears the sound of the cannons, knows it's her brother's, climbs into the elevator shaft, finds the Zillo Beast tank, because you remember back in, let's see, season 2, episode 11, Metamorphosis, there was that young juvenile cloned Zillo Beast that escaped from an Imperial ship. You know, they got the tip to go like kind of loot the ship from Sid.
Right.
They clashed with the Imperials there. It was that whole thing where like every time they shot the Zillo Beast, it fed on the energy, kept growing faster and faster. Ultimately, the Empire captures it, brings it back to Tantus base, puts it in this giant tank as a container, like a water cell essentially, right?
Right.
And when she finds this Zillo Beast, they're shooting him or her with this giant sort of laser blaster kind of thing, almost like a satellite dish.
Yeah,
but
Death
the way
Star
it comes together,
yeah, yep.
Exactly, Death Star tech.
Yep.
So just like pumping it full of energy, which seems like a bad idea. I guess, you know, if you're developing deadly weapons, that's dangerous, but it seems like a terrible idea. So she gets this idea. I'm sure we all know what it is. Free the Zillo Beast. Let it wreak havoc. Let it be the Darth Maul of Clone Wars season finale.
I was gonna say
the
Lost World, where the T-Rex.
There you go.
Where the T-Rex breaks out into San Diego. You know, I think so. At this point, when you saw that, they just keep sitting here just blasting this thing. Now, I don't get the sense that it's like I can't remember which episode was that. Clone Wars. It was Rebels, I believe, right? Where they have the big kyber crystal, and they break that out of the ship, right? And I think the patrons can help me out with this. But there is, you know, I don't know if we're at the kyber technology yet to figure out what can penetrate the Zillo Beast and actually hurt the Zillo Beast, because that's kind of why Palpatine was so into it. The thing is nearly indestructible, on top of being like Godzilla in terms of how it feeds off energy and grows and manipulates based on that. So I don't know if they're more so trying to figure out exactly like its tolerance, its pain tolerance, its destructant, destruct what actually can hurt it. But I don't think they're at we've discovered that the Death Star is super powered by Kyber technology yet. So
here it is in Rebels.
Stacey Land says that. Yeah, there's a big old chunk of Kyber crystal there,
looking like Superman's coffin.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah. So the thing, if you remember back, it goes all the way back to season 2 of the Clone Wars, episode 19. The title of the episode was the Zillo Beast. Sorry, episode 13. And then returned in episode 19 of the same season. You remember Anakin like standing on top of the thing, just whacking it with a lightsaber? Nothing was happening.
Yeah.
And ultimately they captured the thing, and Palpatine said, "Hey, go clone this thing. Like, just set it point blank."
Right.
So
it's an amazing specimen or whatever he calls it.
Yeah. So is it like a play to use it, like to try to source its scales or something, because they're it's like material science that they're working on, basically.
Right.
Whether it's like an armor thing or what. But nonetheless, here it is, and it's happening, and this whole thing is going to be central, and it's pretty awesome that something that Palpatine, this evil genius, captured and tried to exploit, is now going to be this huge setback in his long-term plan to clone himself.
Right.
That thing's going to destroy the whole base. It's going to be part of this plan. It's interesting.
If that's what happens, I think there's a lot of people that would be expecting to see the Zillo Beast escape and destroy Tantus base and do all that stuff and probably kill Hemlock. That's what I think. That's what I think people are rooting for here, right? Let's see the guy get it. But I think we have to also remember that there is, we have to find out what is in the like ultimate lockdown, whatever that big dark secret, right? Whatever that thing is that they've alluded at, right? If this is the first iteration of Snoke, if this is the first iteration of a cloned Force user, if this is more Jedi in stasis, whatever that could be, we still have to find out what that is. And so there's a part of me that thinks, I think we had talked about this a little bit in some of the previous episodes, if maybe they had actually made more progress than we gave them credit for. And the Zillo Beast is part of the reason why their operations were destroyed, which would lead us to the fact that when we saw them again in Mando, the bodies looked fried. They were not complete, right? Like and even by the time we meet him in Rise of Skywalker, he's still not. It didn't work. You know what I mean? Like in some ways, you could say that Snoke worked. Snoke was his own thing, but Palpatine did not seem happy with that. So much that he needed to make more. And then by the time we get Palpatine in the Rise of Skywalker, he doesn't have his final form. He doesn't have his good body. He needs, it clearly didn't work the way that he intended. So I'm with you on that. I think this could be interesting.
It's fun stuff. It's so campy, but I love all the cloning shit. I love all of it. Somehow Palpatine returned. Whatever. I'm on board.
What's interesting about this is cloning has played, like, think about the original trilogy. I fought with your father in the Clone Wars. It said one line, and we didn't hear anything about it after that. For two more movies, right? For the rest of the first movie, for the two episode, 3 and 4. Or, I'm sorry, episode 4, 4, 5, and 6. We didn't hear anything else. That was it. It was just like Clone Wars. Okay, cool.
Yep.
There is more Star Wars around the concept of clones than there is not Star Wars without clones.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, it's insane considering how big of a role Rex plays in animated Star Wars.
Yeah.
How much the clones were a part of the prequels. Like, it's incredible really for people who couldn't wrap their head around cloning and this idea of perfect soldiers and all that kind of stuff. That was such a little tiny part. It cracks me up thinking how stoked we are to find out that Mandalorian, like, we're gonna get into cloning again. It's like the only stuff that's like untouched by cloning is at this point basically
Jedi and Mandalorians.
right. Like I'm like, oh,
cloning is central to the Sith story. It's central to the 90% of animation,
right.
if not more. Right
Now
it's
in the Mandalorian, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm just like, this is hilarious. Like cloning is, I mean, like Star Wars is like more Westworld at this point than its original Star Wars, So
Yeah.
I think it's awesome, and it's interesting, man. The people are fans of this show. They're fans of Star Wars. We gotta hand it to them. It's awesome.
Love it. All right, let's get into the den.
For over 1,000 generations.
It is the dark saber.
It's a Kalikori.
A Sith Wayfinder.
Dark science. Cloning. Secrets only the Sith knew.
The Den of Antiquities. It's very deep today. And I
Good
like
stuff.
when I say that. Right? We got deep stuff in here. I need the patrons to give Adam the Skull a lot of credit, because when he's not responding to your memes, it's because he's working in the den. The guy's just in there just digging. Him and Doc Ondar just digging, right? Looking for stuff.
Picks, shovels,
Picks, shovels.
Sifting. We got
right?
those things that, like, when you go, you get the fool's
You're a
gold.
49er. Yeah, you're a 49er. Yep. Something we haven't discussed yet is the name of the planet that Mount Tantus is on. We've been referring to it as Tantus, but that's actually the mountain, the base, right? And we can see that there's other bases besides just this one. So Tantus is like the central one, I'm assuming, and I'm sure that there's some lore and some patrons that are going to drop some knowledge on us in here. But the planet that it's on is actually called Wayland. It first appeared, at least identified by name, in the Vader Immortal VR game that is on what's that, Oculus? I think you can chop up and do all that stuff.
MetaQuest. Yeah.
MetaQuest. Also appeared as a still image in the 2021 comic in the High Republic Adventures, which I think was Dark Horse, or I think that was Marvel. I can't remember which publisher
Marvel,
that
right?
was.
Yeah.
I believe
It's
it
like
was
one of the first ones, wasn't it?
Well, I think High Republic Adventures was the weekly, and then I can't remember.
Got it.
Yeah,
got it.
Adventures and the High Republic are different. Adventures was a I think there were more in there, different storylines.
Word.
Now Wayland, of course, if you're a fan of another franchise that's also celebrating, I think, a 45th anniversary this next week, is Wayland, which is the Wayland Yutani from Alien.
Oh, yeah, yep.
Mm-hmm. So Wayland, if you watch Prometheus and you met Wayland, who is the original space explorer, he was the company that provided a lot of the ships for them to go and find the xenomorphs. Well, they weren't looking for them, but they found them. So that was I think that might be a little sci-fi callback.
Yeah.
The giant bear, tiger, biped jungle beast of Tantus is called a Dryax. Look at that guy. That's what I'm talking
Muscly.
about right there. That thing's gorgeous.
More humanoid than I realized.
What's that?
More humanoid than I realized. Like,
That's true.
almost like
that thing benches for sure.
yeah.
That thing benches. First appeared in Season 3, Episode 3, Shadows of Tantus, when Omega and Crosshair were trying to escape. There it is. So I wonder, like, how many of these things, like, Tantus is truly a vicious place, considering it's got the vine organism. It's got these things lurking around. It's got the hounds. I mean, I'm like, this place is violent.
Isn't there, like, I'm just now realizing this, a very lost, all caps, lost island vibe to this, in terms of, like, you know, the shark with the Dharma logo on it, the polar bears, all this weird crap.
Right.
It's
almost saying, like, these almost could have been, like, aggravated species that.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm considering they have a Zillow beast inside that base. I'm definitely not. I'm definitely not ruling it out. So a cool little detail that we've been noticing is that Force-sensitive children in the vault pronounce Omega's name Omega, which we know her name is Omega, but presumably they've never heard the word Omega before or know what it means. So when she's saying, when the doctors are saying Omega because of their accent, the children are just like, that's just her name. Sounds good. The medical droid in the Tantus vault makes a sound similar to the interrogation droid that Vader uses on Princess Leia in her Death Star cell in A New Hope. Can we play this, Adam? Can we get a little soundbite here?
Let's hear it. Here's the one from the Bad Batch.
Thanks,
Got that
I
kind
hate
of
it.
like pulsating kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then here's A New Hope. More intense. Dude, here's something interesting about this. So, like, this sound is so unsettling. And that clicking sound right here, like, at the end of this, it's got, like, the snake rattle quality to it. Sound, like,
Yeah.
it reminds you of the Predator.
Sure.
I just watched a video from this guy who's it's a YouTube video.
Sure.
He's a linguist. He's a professor, and it was about vocal fry and why we hate vocal fry with the
West Coast,
yeah and,
Valley Girl. Yeah.
yes, and he makes all these examples of how it's been around forever, males and females, different ages, all kinds of stuff. But the point he makes is that there's like an unsettling thing about that low tone with that like flapping kind of clicking sound. He references, it's either The Grudge or The Ring. It's The Grudge, the horror movie,
Yeah, because they do that like clicking throat sound. Yeah.
And it's so unsettling. I literally watched it last night, and then this.
You want to
came
know
on.
something? You want to know something interesting too? And on the topic of weird sounds and the Predator, you know who made the Predator clicking? The original, like whatever. I can't even do it. The sound, but
No.
you know the Predator's like throat
Right.
noise.
Mhm.
You know who did that?
Tell me.
Optimus Prime himself, Peter Cullen.
No way.
Yep.
Sick.
Yeah, I will send you a video of it, but if the patrons want to check it out, if you actually YouTube Peter Cullen Predator, you can hear how they were looking for different sounds of what the Predator is going to sound like, and Peter was like, why don't I just try to make one? And it's incredible. Peter Cullen, absolute legend in the voice performance industry. That's a little detail. We're in the den, man. We're deep in the den.
Yeah, bro.
Okay. We've been watching Masters of the Air on Apple TV Plus. I think Adam's almost caught up. So when we saw the turbo laser blast exploding around the Bad Batch's shuttle during their approach on Tantus, it looked a lot like flak. There we go. Look at that. Now, if you're wondering what flak is, essentially this was, I think, originated mainly on the European front by the German forces. And essentially what it is it sets a artillery shell up to a certain height and it explodes up there. So once they're able to fire a shell up in the air, it has like almost like a timed detonation, and they're able to figure out how high the bombers are flying, and it basically sends this projectile of sharp objects to rip the planes apart. And the Allied forces really had no option other than to just fly through it and hope that they weren't hit. And it was pretty incredible. But it's characteristic that they could see as they were shooting them from these giant. I mean, we have howitzers, these giant rollable guns, these huge turrets. They're symbolized by this like black cloud of smoke when they explode, and you can see in Masters of the Air. It's just show the actual historical picture. It's a ton of
terrifying.
artillery in the air. It's absolutely terrifying. So I think I thought that too. That's funny that both of us came together and we're like, oh, it kind of looked like flak, right? We're just super high on aerial combat right now.
Dude, I'm so bummed. I don't know what I did with it, but I prepped all these audio samples and stuff, and I actually have like the pronunciation from Wikipedia of the full German word that flak is short for.
Ah, sure.
It's like 5 syllables. It's hilarious sounding to English speakers.
Yes, right. Because everything's
But I
just
Yeah, I don't have it.
When speaking of turbo lasers firing, the flak-like blasts are very similar to the ones we first saw on the Death Star in 1977. Those kind of cubed turrets right there. And a very kind of iconic Star Wars light, a warning light.
Yeah.
I feel like we've seen that a lot. It looks kind of like an old naval light right there. Mm-hmm. Interesting. When the Bad Batch's ship is hit, a familiar sounding alarm goes off on the dashboard. Adam, do we have some audio samples of this?
Oh, we got that.
I think the patrons want to hear this. Let's give it.
Deflector shields are failing.
Deflector shields. Funny.
Interesting.
What's that flashing?
We're losing a deflector shield.
Both strap yourselves in. I'm going to make a jump to light speed.
Well, I would say that's certainly taken right out. They just ripped it off Star Wars. What were these guys thinking?
Dude, I love that Luke in this scene is in full, like, bring your kid to work day mode, you know? What's that flashing?
Right. Kid, we're going to die here. You got to sit down. You got to get in the back, man. Like, stop asking me questions.
Oh, God, I love it.
When the Bad Batch and Rampart rappel down from the shuttle into the forest of Tantus, it reminds us a lot of the dropship cable system from Edge of Tomorrow.
I love this.
Yeah, yeah.
You a fan of Edge of Tomorrow?
I love Edge of Tomorrow. Well, what did they change it to? Live, Die, Repeat?
That was the original, yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right.
And I guess
no,
in
the
the
original
US
I thought was All You Need Is Kill.
Oh, no, yeah. What's it called? Something Kill. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I love this movie.
It is great.
I love this movie.
It's the kind of movie you put it on. It's like a great example of a rewatchable. You know, you pop it on and like you could jump in at any point and you're just on board. You know what I mean?
Right. So you got Edge of Tomorrow from this. You didn't get Mandalorian dropship like in Mando season 3?
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Oh, really? Yeah. That was what I thought. You know, like the floor opens out from under them.
Yeah.
And they hit. They pull the
Yes.
eject, and then they all fly with their jetpacks.
Exactly.
Like, I was like, yeah, that's pretty sick. I like that. But actually, this is a good reference, sci-fi reference right here. I like that.
Check this out, though. I got a couple more slides. Watch. So
I want to
here's
see it.
These are the harnesses, right?
Uh-huh.
Getting ready to drop.
Yep.
They do get out of the harnesses and then rappel down separately, whereas in Edge of Tomorrow, it's all built in. You know,
Yeah.
there's like you can see the winch right above them.
Right.
But there's the drop, you know,
Yep.
same shot,
Sure.
top down. And then they're all falling out of this exploding ship. It's very, very similar in terms of like the scenario, how they get out of it.
Right.
It's pretty cool. I'm into it.
Yeah, I like that. Man, I'd love to see that. I'd love to see a Mandalorian comparison. Add that. Maybe give a little patrons a little something. Let's see. The Bad Batch are seated in shoulder harnesses. When they get up and rappel down on cables, it's a similar vibe. And then they go full Tarzan through the jungle. Shout out to Mutt Williams. Nice. I like that.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. I thought this was hilarious. The fact that they were flying so fast.
Yeah.
If you hit a limb
Dead.
at that speed, you're like, oh, both my femurs. Fried.
They were so meticulous and deliberate about how they choreographed the entire dogfight, and especially like the move that Hunter pulled where he just dropped, you know, with the nose aimed up and then hit the gas again and then went up. It was so sick.
Yeah.
Here I feel like he could have pulled another move where he just like hit the brakes really hard to slow them down and then drop.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was a
I thought the same
long,
thing.
yeah, it was a little like, it was pretty cowboy, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is a Lucasfilm production. We got to appreciate that.
Yeah.
When Omega is climbing through the elevator shafts, as she's accessed through the panel in her cell, it's a very Mission Impossible vibe. Adam, what do you have for us in regards to Mission Impossible?
Well, the look of it was very Mission Impossible,
100%, yeah.
And I feel like there's a specific thing in one of those movies in an elevator shaft, and there's stuff they're just like
Always
pardon
flying
the pun,
by.
cruising
Yeah.
by him, right?
Yep.
But they really went for it, the Kiners, in the score. Check this out.
Do do do.
You hear it?
Do do do. Great theme.
Shout out.
The
Well done.
Kiners were like, you know what? What are you nerds going to talk about? You can talk about that on your podcast? Music nerds. I thought that was awesome. That's a great little detail right there.
Loved it.
And now, did you get at least in the sense that like you thought one of these, these because they're basically cargo boxes that are just flying around, right? Like
Yeah.
like there's a smaller frame system inside of the elevator shafts. They're almost like dumbwaiters, right? Like they just go up and over, and they're basically just being sent all around. So I thought that was pretty cool. I was like, is she gonna like stop one to
Jump
see
onto one?
Yeah, you know what
Yeah.
that's what I was kind of thinking was gonna happen, but I like this. So I mean, the Den of Antiquities, man, it was deep this week. There was a lot of good stuff on here. And then speaking of which, a couple of pating on our bingo cards. What do we got, Adam? What
Putting
do we
them on
have?
the board. Hey, before we do this, I'll tell you. We'll do. You know what? We'll do it in the bonus segment for patrons after.
There we
I'll
go.
tell you a story about a bizarre experience that I had on tour years and years ago, probably 15 years ago. That Omega climbing in the elevator shafts reminded me so much of. It is the weirdest thing. It's going to be. It's hard for me to describe fully just how like bizarre this experience was, but bonus segment for patrons. We'll do that after the show.
We love that.
Let's get into the bingo card results. We have a couple hits, like you said. The patrons, thanks to Echo, got the good guy and a bad guy uniform.
Classic. Did Nick get that too? Nick didn't get that?
I think he may have had it on his card.
Okay, Physics Buddy Joe is going to jump in here because he always knows. He's always got us.
And then you got a hit for Zillow Beast mentioned. That's what you had. That's the exact verbiage. Zillow Beast mentioned. I saw you in the Discord thinking like, man, I should have just said Zillow Beast appears, but this counts.
Right.
And also, Omega technically mentions later when she says, I have a plan.
Sure.
She sees it. She says, I have a plan. It's something big or whatever, right?
Yeah. So I'm getting that point, guys.
Yeah.
If it's not today, it's next episode. I'm getting that point.
We're gonna
Where does that put me? Where does that put? Am I like close to bingo?
You're way, way ahead in first. We're gonna take some pretty generous liberties after the finale with these bingo cards because
That's true.
I was looking at mine and Ryan's. It's just like, what were we were expecting a completely different show.
But this goes back to the fact that like we are fans of Star Wars and that I give them a lot of credit. We talked about this, like the restraint of how well they've developed these characters to give them their own moment, right? This kind of goes back to when in Mando season 2 finale, Luke showed up and everyone wanted the Force theme, right? And then someone re-edited it and it was like,
Right.
you know, the Force, he should have had the Force theme. And I was like, yo. This was actually a very smart move on, because I think it was Peyton Reed or someone did the finale. I think it was Peyton Reed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was very smart to not include the Force theme because it was not Luke's moment. Luke was doing Luke things, which we know about. This was actually Din Djarin's moment to be able to finally say, I'm letting go of my clan of 2, right? I'm letting go of this. And so the fact that they didn't do that overshadowed it. If they would have done that, it would have overshadowed it. It would have been like, you've instantly now forgotten all about the Mandalorian, all about Din Djarin's story, and you would have been like, Luke Skywalker, right?
It's fan fiction bullshit.
100%, right? And I think what we're seeing in this, like looking at the bingo card and looking how all the things that we said in a fan-led version of Bad Batch, I don't think any of us said anything that was like really out of pocket. You know what I mean? Like you could draw parallels of like how all these things would happen, but you got to give. I think so. The patrons were on it too. I don't think anybody was saying anything that was like insane. You know what I mean? Like the fact that the fact that everyone said Darth Vader's going to appear is because we know that he is the ultimate enforcer, right?
Yeah.
And we're seeing that in Tales of the Empire. And I think we probably won't see Vader because they left all this storytelling for Tales of the Empire.
Right.
So I think we're going to see something that's a little bit different in the next show or whatever that ends up being. I think they've got another show like waiting in the wings. They're going to drop it after next week. We've got Tales of the Empire that they want them to see. We have Acolyte coming so fast after that. And then later in the year, finally, could we get a trailer for Skeleton Crew, man? What is going on here?
Truly. Bro, we have to get it on May 4th. We have to.
Well, I mean, do you think they're going to drop that? Because that's when Tales of the Empire comes out.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Sure.
Who knows? I mean, they know that animation is for a subset of the deep fandom,
right?
And hitting mainstream with another live action trailer. My only hesitancy would be that the Acolyte isn't even out yet. But
you're saying that we've got approximately about 4 weeks of no Star Wars content.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to know what the best strategic play is, because do they drop a trailer for another live action series before the next one on deck even drops?
What did they do for Ahsoka? Do you remember? What did they like? I feel like we were getting trailers for other stuff. I think, given what we know, the Tales stuff all drops at the same time, right? They're mini stories. They're about 5-8 minute mini stories, right? I think that's all dropping on purpose to kind of fill in some of the gaps to bring people back up to speed if they're watching this, right? I think I think that would actually make a lot of sense for us to get Morgan Elsbeth's story, Night Sister background in Tales of the Jedi, to then prep us to say, we've got these great stories. Wouldn't you like to know more? Well, guess what? After Bad Batch, now we've got our next series, like, Dawn of the Rebels, Dawn of the Rebellion, whatever they're calling it. That would make sense. So I think they might be filling in some gaps. Like, it's a strategic thing. But I'm with you. I think we're gonna get probably another Acolyte trailer. I think we're gonna get a Skeleton Crew. Something's gonna happen. I think it's gonna be a wild month for Star Wars fans. And Phantom Menace is coming back out. I mean, like, you're talking, and I think we're getting a preview of Acolyte in Phantom Menace. The preview.
Oh yes,
right.
Yes, we are.
Like an extended view or extended watch or whatever that is.
And today they dropped like an exclusive look. Just a it's not a full scene, but like a moment cut directly from Tales of the Empire, the Night Sister and Grievous face off.
Looks amazing.
Yeah,
like
incredible.
So
Grievous finally looks kind of scary.
Oh yeah, he's terrifying for sure. And I think what's going to be really awesome about it is that we are going to get the Dathmiri Night Sister Coven has gotten a lot of love outside of in video games. There's a lot of people who enjoyed Fallen Order but didn't watch the Clone Wars. So I think there's a lot going on in here that I think this is going to spawn the next story arc, the next storytelling chapter of Star Wars. And I think Bad Batch is just kind of like basically lining up the tee to, punt the whole thing off. So I'm excited about that. And then,
kick the sports ball. All right, let's do I Love You, I Know.
I love you.
I know.
Favorite scenes, favorite moments, favorite quotes, and so on. Let's hear from the patrons. We got a bunch from Stacy Leanne, including the hit on her bingo card with Well, first, her favorite. Thanks for the hand. Echo says to the droid that he steals the hand from. Amazing.
That's amazing.
Great
Yep.
moment. That checks off her bingo card. The classic good guy in a bad guy outfit.
Right.
Let's see what else here.
The classic, did Rampart make it? Unfortunately, yes.
Yes.
That was pretty funny. They're just like, I mean, he's like right there, and they just like keep bodying this guy. It's amazing. Like,
Yeah, I love it.
like he's trying so hard to be like, ugh, we hate each other, and they're just like,
Yeah.
there's no attempt.
We need
no
this
attempt,
idiot.
right?
God, I guess.
Oh my god.
Blue Guy 808 says Rampart, the gift that keeps on giving. Now I have to decide if the Rampart ragdoll from last episode was funnier or his high pitched scream in this episode. LOL.
Rampart's who's Rampart's voice actor again?
It's Nashir Dalal, right? Is that how you pronounce it? Is that the right name? Did I just
Yeah. Nope, you're right.
nailed it?
Yeah,
Adele
he,
Dazeem.
yeah, he crushes it. In how, like, you know, we generally see the officers, have their kind of, they all try to feel in charge, right? Until suddenly there's a yell of like, scramble the fighters or whatever they say something, back up, more power to the shields, whatever. This straight up unhinged dude flying through the air, Noshir is crushing this role of guy trying to seem tough, who is completely out of his element. He is absolutely crushing it.
Incoherent shrieking is the subtitle.
Yeah, right. Incoherent shrieking. That's good.
Physics Buddy Joe points out a really good one. When Omega tells the kids to cover her, the kids say, "Cover you?" Like, what the hell does that mean?
Right.
Omega speaking soldier while these kids are just so naive and innocent.
And they're kids.
It's great. Loved
I
it.
know. Yep.
All Physics Buddy Joe also mentions the Rampart and Crosshair conversation that we quoted. In the Shadows of the Empire, Henry Clark. Also loved the "thanks for the hand" quote.
Yeah, we got like NATO Potato, and a lot of other people drawing a lot of Happy Gilmore quotes in here of
Yes.
of Chubbs' wooden hand. That's been
Damn alligator bit my hand off.
But when Happy like shoots the slap shot
Yeah.
and it just flies off and it's
Yeah.
wooden and it just gets run over by the car and then he's like
Yeah.
gluing it back together. Rip Carl Weathers.
Legend.
Can we also appreciate Wrecker, like the Dryax is this ferocious beast, and you hear Wrecker with glee. Like, oh yeah, like he runs and jumps on this thing, and it just turns around and just houses him and leaves a humongous gash mark in his armor. And I'm like, he was laughing. He literally is so lovably dumb that he went head first into trying to ride this thing. I was like, this is a Wrecker moment.
Patron with the screen name Holden McGroin.
Ah, classic. Holden's
Agreed
back.
on all these points. Really liked the conversation between Echo and Emery. Same, bro. It was a great way to tie her in with the Bad Batch and give her a chance to do some real good. Hopefully she doesn't die with this show and her character, because her character has a lot of cool potential. Love it. Good shit. All right, Mike, what about you? What was your favorite moment or quote?
I think the small little moment between Echo and Emery was the moment that I think that we needed in a lot of ways, because Echo has kind of been the unsung hero of the Bad Batch, right? And you look at his story arc of being an ARC trooper, going all the way into being captured, being horribly disfigured and experimented on, and then still having this drive to free the clones, be a person who can advocate for change and advocate for redemption and advocate for standing up for what's right and fighting the good fight. I think Echo has been that kind of forgotten member of the Bad Batch that I think oftentimes, especially he was kind of underutilized in in season 2, and then season 3 is really, and he's off with Rex and he's doing this other stuff, and that was a big point. But I think that conversation of Emery understanding exactly that her role, Crosshair saying the Empire betrayed us, Emery is fully aware that the Empire is betraying her.
Yeah.
And that she is disposable, that Hemlock
pawn.
is right. Hemlock is not going to support her. Is not, Nala Se is probably gone too at this point. So I thought that was a really beautiful little moment, that conversation of, you're a clone, you're like us. That was awesome.
Yeah, it's hard to top that one for me because for everything, all the reasons you've said, the long road that Echo's been down. One of my 4 bases that are named after Star Wars things is named Echo.
Yep.
Echo, Rex, Fives, and Ahsoka.
Did we put a sticker on that?
No, we talked about it, but I don't know how to do it. Like, we could do his original actual, armor paint,
Gray and blue, and
yeah.
Okay,
We
figure
talked
it out.
about doing the hand,
Yeah. We'll figure it out this summer. I got a good feeling about it. We can figure it out.
I got a good feeling about this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's hard to top that because of the long road that he's been down, and it's just, she's a perfect person to him. He's a perfect person for Emery to have to confront for the reasons that we said earlier. Like, he's a product of the kind of I was just doing my job type shit that she's been on.
Right.
So it was perfect. That said, that opening action sequence is so good.
Yeah.
It's hard to not make that my favorite, because the whole sequence from beat 1 to when they land is like perfect action, aerial combat, choreography and cinematography and blocking and pace and everything, and the score hits so well. That's the kind of thing where even if you don't watch cartoons, you can watch that and forget that it's animation for a minute.
Right.
So
I'm with you on that.
I'll go with that, as to not copy you.
Yeah. Cool. Respect.
Cool beans.
Respect.
All right, we already talked a bunch about what might be next, so we won't go any further on that. I know we both hope we get something longer. Give us like 40 minutes. I'll be happy with that.
I mean, I think at this point, if it is under 30 minutes, I will be 11 o'clock on the East Coast. I do feel like if it's 20 minutes, it's segueing us into the next animated series.
Yeah,
if it's an
20
hour,
minutes, they're going to announce something the same day.
Yeah.
Or the next day.
Yeah.
Don't do it to us. Don't do us
the
dirty like that.
The iconic burning logo of the Clone Wars burning into the Bad Batch.
Yes.
If that burns into the next chapter, if it's 20 minutes, we're getting a new series. If it's an hour, we're getting a new series. That's what I think. That should have been my bingo card. But yeah, I think we're due for. There are so many loose ends that the writing has been so good. I'm kind of like, I would be shocked if they left so many loose ends on the table for a 20-minute episode.
For sure.
Yep.
Agreed.
Yep.
All right, the bonus segment for patrons, in addition to the weird story that I'm going to tell, we're going to do another one of the Star Wars conversation cards from the chat pack by Kelly Knox. This one is the technology category. I don't know why it's technology. You're invited to the wedding of Princess Leia and Han Solo. What do you bring as a wedding gift?
That's a great question.
I like that.
That is a great question.
So we'll answer that in the bonus segment for patrons. If you want to hear that, go to patreon.com/thankthemakerpod. Even at the lowest tier, you get access to the bonus material, the ad-free feed, Discord, all the good stuff. Do that, please. It helps us. We appreciate the patrons so much. If you don't have the money, you don't want to spend it, write a review, rate us, share it. Do all the things that all of the influencers tell you to do, and all the podcasts and all the channels and everything. Please. Thank you. Got some big news coming up.
Don't say anything.
Awesome news.
Don't
We will
say
say nothing.
anything.
It's coming much sooner than we realized. And also,
That's true.
Mosh Isley tickets are on sale right now for Mosh Isley San Diego. It's July 26th, weekend of San Diego Comic-Con. It's going to be a great party. Same venue as last year. It sold out. It's going to sell out again.
Atlanta is going to drop here pretty dang soon, too.
Sweet.
So we've got some good things happening. Some of our friends, Nick's going to be playing in Chicago. I think we have some friends in the Chicago area. So there's C2E2 is this weekend down in Chicago, and then Nick is playing in Chicago on Monday night. And then for May the 4th, it's on Saturday, and Nick is actually playing in New York. So there's a Roosevelt's party and a hang. So look forward to what we have coming up from Roosevelt's, who's a longtime sponsor of Thank the Maker and Armor Party and Princess and Scoundrels. So look forward to some really fun content coming out of our live feeds too. And then Bayside playing in Saturday. New York on Saturday too. So if you're in the East Coast, if you're East Coast, if you're Midwest, we got a lot of stuff happening. But big announcement.
Big one. It's lit. It's lit, as the kids used to say.
Right.
Don't even think they say it anymore.
No.
Regardless, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And until next week, may the Force be with you. If you enjoy Thank the Maker, you can support us by following and leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Or you can support us directly at patreon.com/thankthemakerpod, where you can get access to our Discord server, exclusive content, exclusive merch, our recording live stream, and more. Our patrons quite literally make Thank the Maker possible.